and statements and TV programs and newspapers, but actually directing those platforms. Look, one of the things the US monitor, and I studied it when I was in policing in Northern Ireland, whenever they started really countering propaganda by the likes of the Taliban, they discovered that you actually had to live time rebut false rumors that were going around. You had to get into the places that they were communicating. The police need to be on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, quickly picking up the disinformation and quickly rebutting it. And they need to completely change their tactics in that, as much as they need to improve their tactics with actually public order equipment and training. So it's about communication, it's about the media, and it's about their tactics.
I just wonder what you make of the political response this week, because you, in your first answer, mentioned Hare Hills, and Keir Starmer did not mention this disorder there on Thursday, and a lot of our viewers and listeners are very annoyed about that, basically saying, if you're mentioning disorder, if you're mentioning things that, in Keir Starmer's view, are not part of our British way of life, and things that are inexcusable in terms of riots, well, actually, in the last month or so, there have been all sorts of riots with people with differing political ideas, different reasons for doing it. Some of them, of course, just want to fight with the police. That's the only reason they're doing it. But actually, would it have been better on Thursday if we called out all of that together?
Absolutely. Look, the two-tier policing narrative, the two-tier criminal justice narrative is toxic. Do you see when it takes set, it rots and corrodes?
There are people calling them two-tier care. I've had people on air saying that. I've seen a hashtag online about that. There is real worry about this, John.
And perception is reality. That's the thing. You've got to understand, if people think that, and you give them any room for doubt, they will fill the void with the answer is two-tier policing. It's a two-tier response. So you have to be studiously vigilant in your language, and that was a pre-prepared press statement. He needs to learn from that to actually make sure you give people no room to feel that there's a two-tier response. Because unfairness rankles with people. It really does. And you need to be vigilant with that and conscious of that. So that's on a political level, but it also affects policing. So, for example, if you have a situation where the police in one area in a riot are able to move in and use force, make arrests, look robust, and in a different area they have to stand back and maybe retreat, unless you explain why, there's a difference. And it might be, for example, that police had information in advance about one situation, they had more resources, but unless you explain that proactively, the explanation that people will turn to is two-tier policing. You were frightened to take on them because they were from a Muslim background, but you hit them because they were white English people. So, communication is so important. Two-tier policing narratives are toxic, and you've got to deal with that proactively, wisely, and smartly. And the spin doctors that keep Keir Starmer right in turn. Political.
All I notice is some commentators, including people on talks, starting to almost condone what happened in Sunderland and what happened in Southport.
I just want to be absolutely clear that I personally, I can't speak for every single person in this station who calls this station, but personally completely condemn absolutely all that violence.
Yeah, but I have seen some that seem to sympathise, but these people are basically have no brain. I mean, how does attacking a policeman, how does setting fire to a police car, how does that solve anything? And I was looking back to the Palestinian protests a few months ago in London. They never did anything like that. I mean,
well, there have been arrests and there have been injuries of police officers at various points.
The fact is, if you look around in Europe, other countries are facing the same problems. If people talk about illegal migration, stopping the boats, and I was looking at Canada, for example. They just recently had to deal with about 60,000 illegals arriving as far north as Canada. So it's not just this country.